And I think realistically, many of you guys sometimes invent work too. And so what I want to walk you through is a process that I stole ruthlessly from Elon Musk that I think you may benefit from. Is that okay? I'm going to walk you through this process of how to allocate time, attention, and resources. Cool? Is that all right? Okay. So there's 5 steps to this. The first step is you question the requirement. Why are we doing this? And so if you can't, so I had a different example. Like this happens all the time, especially those of you who have teams, because people come in, they start getting on a salary, get an hourly wage, and they just have no idea what their actual job is. They have no idea how what they do results in anything with the business growth. And so I had a podcast manager ages ago who was like, hey, I think you should make shorter podcasts. And I said, why? And he said, because shorter podcasts get higher listen through rates. And I said, yeah, why do I care? Would it so? So? And so within the question, the requirements, there's 3 steps. One is, what does that mean? So when you color grade, or when you say you have to shorten this, what does that mean? How, like, what percentage? Is it like, what? Just define the term. Okay, great. Now, second is, how do you know that? So he would then say, well, if shorter podcasts get more listens. I say, okay, how do you know that? He's like, here's the stat. I say, cool. Now, third, why do I care? Now, if he can't relate, well, he's like, well, people who listen to the full podcast like the podcast more. And I'm like, how do you know that? And how does that translate to growth? And so if you can't explain to me how that translates to growth of the platform, it doesn't matter. I don't care. I shouldn't care. And so the thing is that I see so many of you, because I see you guys in the comments and I see your posts, spending all this time on shit that simply doesn't matter. You haven't boiled it down to what the inputs are that generate the most output. And if you're starting out, the big input is you need to let people know about your shit. You have to advertise, and you have to do so ruthlessly and consistently beyond the time of being bored. And we could talk about the rule of 300 in a second, because we can get into that. But I want to go through these 5. So number 1 is you question the requirement. Why are we doing this? The second is that you delete. Once you've questioned the requirements for everything, you just start hacking away. This is why Elon went into Twitter and was like, why do we need this? Why do we need this? Why do we need this? And then he was just like, gone, right? You just deleted a bunch of stuff. And so for most of you, you can probably get away with deleting 90% of the work you're doing, because it's not the stuff that drives the business. So you delete. It's one of the best allocations of resources. Stop, and then get 100% of the resource back. And also, on top of that, eliminate switching costs. So if you have 3 things that you're doing, and let's say 2 of them are irrelevant, not only do you get all the time you get back from the time you were dedicated to that, but the time you spent switching between the tasks also is one of the biggest inefficiencies for human brains. So you get both efficiencies back. So the second thing is you delete. The third is you optimize. So this is where you're like, okay, now I've got 6 things that I can clearly see generate output in the system. Right? Now, this works the same way for sales as it does for editing, as it does for advertising. This is just how do you get more throughput in any system. All right. And so for us, I'll tell you this, we just went through this. I'm literally walking my media team through this. We looked at our output by channel. So some of you guys saw my tier ranking video, right? So really interesting is that 87% of my traffic, 87, comes from 2 platforms, Instagram and YouTube. But I have evenly distributed editors across all platforms. I also don't even create Instagram first content. I don't even make it. It's just repurposed. But as of today, Instagram actually generates more traffic to acquisition.com than my YouTube does. I just found this out. And so by double, it's a lot more. And so where I find this to be very interesting is that, okay, we know that Instagram gets us more than TikTok does. And now we're going to delete some stuff, deleted color grading, deleted whatever, right? But now at a platform level, let's optimize. So it's like optimizing activities, but then optimizing where we're doing it. So if you have the rule of 300, which I'll get to in a second, if you have the rule of 300 that you could do, well, you could do it on TikTok. You could do it on Instagram. You could do it on YouTube. You could do it on wherever, right? But you want to do it on the place you get the highest returns. And so we're going to be optimizing, allocating our resources to where we get the highest returns. And so if we've got 20 guys, instead of saying 2, 2, 2, 2, 2 across the platforms, we might put 8 on Instagram and 8 on YouTube, and then 1 on each of the other 4. And I might even forget about TikTok. TikTok doesn't do shit for me. I've got 1 million people, or almost 1 million people there. It does nothing. I got 1 opt-in in 4 days from TikTok, just to give you guys context. And I have probably a pretty decent sized TikTok. It's ridiculous. It's absurd. It's mind melting. All right. Now let me juxtapose that with I got 187 off of Instagram. Same time period. 3 million, 1 million. That's what's crazy about this. That's what's crazy about this. 3 million, 1 million. We had more posts on TikTok than we did on Instagram. Is this interesting for you guys? Okay. So step 1 is why we question the requirements. Why are we doing this to begin with? Second, we delete all the shit that doesn't matter. Third, we optimize resources against the things that we get the most bang for the buck. And you have to be okay. You have to be okay saying, yeah, I know I was doing that. I'm just going to stop. You can't feel this like, well, I've already done sunk cost fallacy. If the rules change or you get new data, the only thing worse than getting new data that tells you what you're doing is wrong, only thing worse than not knowing is getting it and still doing nothing about it. So number 4 is accelerate timelines. So this matters a lot with a team, but I'll still explain it to you. So for my team, for example, they sometimes have a tendency to say, a manager might say, hey, when can you get this done by? Right. And then someone might say, I can do it by next Monday. So what I've been trying to drill and practice with my, managers and directors is question that. So you're going to get it done. Today's Monday. So you're going to get it done by next Monday. Okay, cool. How long does it take in hours? It'll probably take me 3 hours. Okay. It's 2:30 now. Why can't you get it done by 5:30 today? Why not? Just tell me why not. I want to understand. Well, if they're like, well, I've got these other things, then you get to say none of these are more important than this. So I'll see you at 5:30, get this done. And at 5:30, I'll tell you what to do next. So this is number 4. Where was John? Accelerate. You accelerate the timelines. You pull up the timetable. And if you want to make things happen faster, by the way, big pro tip, there's 2 things that you can do. Number 1 is you move up deadlines. Number 2 is you increase comms. So you increase speed of communication. So if, for example, I meet weekly with somebody, I will guarantee you that if I meet with them daily, I will get more out of them. Period. Because what happens is people just default. They just default to how much time it's between the next. They're like, yeah, we see each other next Monday. I'll get it done by the same time next Monday. But it takes 3 hours. So it's like, cool. So it's 7 a.m. now, and I'll see you by noon. That's 5 hours. They have 2 hours to fuck around. And at noon, what do? I say, okay, this is the next thing. How long will that take you? 2 hours. Great. You have 3 hours to fuck around. I'll see you at 5. And guess what happened? In one day, we got 2 weeks worth of work done. And tomorrow, we start again. And so this is how, in real time, people can move 14 times faster than you. This is how it works, is you pull up the timelines. You keep pulling it forward and say, and the thing is if the person says, well, I've got this other stuff, it's up to you to say, 1, what's the priority of this list? Now, let's say they do have something that's more important, then fine. Then it's like, cool, don't worry about that. Do the first priority thing. But if there's other stuff, it's like, well, I have to do this. It's not as important to the business, but something's going to break if I don't do it. Then it's up to you to say, hey, let me clear the path. Like your job, if you're managing, I know some of you guys are starting out, but like giving you a little bit of glimpse into the future. And if you're managing yourself, you have to be able to say, and I'll tell you what, guys, when I wanted to fix one of our departments, I jumped in. I made a podcast about this, but I wanted to fix one of our departments. It's a different department. And it took me like 2 hours to dive into why everything was fucked. And this department basically did nothing for like weeks. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? I hopped on the meetings, like my head was going to explode because I was like, I don't understand what the fuck's going on here. And so I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. And I own the company. Like, You certainly have no idea what's going on, right? Like you don't even have a larger picture at stake here, right? And so I itemized the problems as 3 big problems. And I said, and guess what we're going to do? We're not going to talk about problem 2 and 3 until number 1 is done. I don't want to hear about anything that's not problem number 1. And guess what? We got problem number 1 fixed in 3 days. There's a big problem. Problem fixed in 3 days. And then I was like, great, now we will work on problem number 2. And I don't want to hear about problem 3 until problem number 2 is fixed. And we did that, and that took us 3 days. And then once problem number 2 was fixed, they said, great, now we can do problem number 3. And so it's like, you just have to be able to say no to shit. It's just not important. And it might be important, but it's not as important. And like the number 1 job of the CEO and the entrepreneur fundamentally is prioritization. That is strategy, is prioritization of resources. And when you have so few, you actually have to be even more sparing than you are when you're advanced. And this is why I think so few people move out of the beginner stage. They just can't fucking do anything. They can't figure it out because they try to figure everything out. You just have to be like, I have to set up my fucking about page. If the about page isn't set up, I'm not going to get customers. Okay. Until my about page is set up, I am going to do nothing else. Once my about page is set up, then I'm going to spend all my time driving people to my fucking about page. Once people are driving to the about page, whatever the problem is, if it's a conversion thing, then I will keep driving people to the about page, and then I will flip the VSL and make a better version of the VSL. And then I will keep driving people to the about page. And over time, you will start to make money. And then when you make money, then you want to start outsourcing the pieces that you have to do on a consistent basis so that you can do the things that you don't have to do on a consistent basis so you can build the future. So step 5 is automate, which I kind of jumped the gun there, right? Which is automate can either be somebody else does it for you, or you can actually automate the task if it's something that you can use robots to do, right? Software, AI, whatever the fuck, right? And so the big process for optimizing a system is number 1, question why we're doing everything. Question everything. Number 2, delete everything that doesn't matter. Number 3, optimize and reallocate resources according to the thing that gets you the most bang for buck. 4, accelerate timelines. Do it faster, pull it forward. Ask, why can't you? What would it take? Those types of questions. What would it take to get it done in 5 hours instead of 5 days? What would it take? What's the constraint? How can I relieve this? Is there anything that's more important? And then finally, automate. You either give it to somebody else or you have a machine do it. And you can apply this thinking to any system, whether it's video editing, advertising, sales scripts, VSLs. This is how it works. Okay.